Mental health has been at the forefront of the transgender community as of late. With legislation and discrimination across multiple states, many in the community are seeking out resources that could better help with advocacy and mental health. And with the passing of Transgender Day of Visibility, a day that highlights the need for representation on protections for transgender people, many community members are speaking out with their own stories. For Matt, who is a transgender man, his mental health journey was very treacherous early on.
Like right before I started exploring with my gender identity, I was in like a really, really bad place, probably the worst place of my life in terms of my mental health. Went through some self-harming tendencies and some problems with like disordered eating. And I experienced some suicidal ideation. I didn't ever attempt it, but it was something that I was struggling with for a while. I was just very frustrated and like lost with everything, I think. And as I started working through my feelings about my gender identity, it got a lot easier for me, where even just by the time I had like come out at school, I was in a much healthier place mentally and emotionally.
According to a study by the Trevor Project, 42% of LGBTQIA youth seriously considered attempting suicide in the past year, including more than half of transgender and non-binary youth. In the same study, 94% of LGBTQIA youth reported that recent politics negatively impacted their mental health. This is also coupled with the fact that 75% of LGBTQIA youth reported that they had experienced discrimination based on their sexual orientation or gender identity at least once in their lifetime. But as Danny Richardson says, times are changing for the better.
When I came out, this was like around 2016. And since then, I feel like the trans community has been way more accepting of how people want to express their gender identity. And when I came out, I feel like everyone expected me to like be full on like man, do everything that a man wants to do.
Danny and Matt both point out the misconceptions around not just their identity, but the community as a whole.
The trans experience is not universal, it's not homogenous, and my experiences are going to differ significantly from another trans boy's experience.
As a person who goes by he, they, I feel like part of me wants to still dress in that like androgynous kind of like feminine way. And then part of me also wants to be seen as like kind of sporty and masculine. And those are like two clashing sides that like society never sees both. They only see one. Then I started to realize that like gender identity and gender expression, they're wildly different in every single person, because even cisgendered males have like different ways of expressing how they feel.
So, what resources are available to combat negative mental health? Urban Abbey is a church in Omaha that was founded by Deborah McKnight, and she works to make sure all feel included by focusing on proper pronouns and fostering an inclusive environment.
We take really seriously the very scary statistics around suicide and other mental health related statistics and challenges in terms of truancy or bullying among folks who are transgender or identify like or are non-binary.
A collective recommendation for trans people is therapy, but as Matt says, it's not a one-size-fits-all solution.
I have to say, I know it's not for everyone, but it was a huge, huge help in my life. And I don't know like how I would have gotten through everything if I hadn't gone to therapy. It was very, very helpful for me, and it inspired me to become a therapist for my career.
We have a list of therapists that we connect people to. We are a space to listen and to offer resources. And probably the place that the Abbey can be a part of and that I can be a part of as a pastor is one, the listening, and two, advocacy.
So, what can the community do to better conditions for trans people?
I feel that parents don't talk too much about transgender issues enough until they become known to a majority of the country. And that's what's kind of scary for all these like middle schoolers and elementary schoolers growing up, that the only thing that they're going to have to base off of their knowledge of the LGBTQ community is the issues that they have with the government.
Don't ever take one trans person's experience as representative of all trans people's experiences, because we're all very different, just like cis people.
Reporting in Omaha, Zoey Musel, 3 News Now.